Now, okay, here we go now. All right, everybody, we are here. We are live. We're back again. These have slowed down a little bit in release momentum, but we've been busy, as you may or may not know. Shout out to Chicken Coop for the stellar apparel. We're always welcome to more apparel from any org. If you want me to wear it on laying it down, just let me know. Anyway, today I've got a special guest here, videographer for Fragadelphia, videographer in general, and Counter-Strike enthusiast player, competitor extraordinaire, Alexander Tawa. He goes by Tawa online. That's where you've seen his name,
Yeah,
by the way. But how are we doing today?
fantastic. I've got a bit of a busy day ahead of me actually, because I'm packing up all sorts of shit because I'm moving tomorrow actually.
Ooh.
I'm moving into town, so I stalled it real hard, and I've got everything to do. I need to pack up like my whole PC after this, probably, to be honest.
Dude, I do not envy that. Well, I'm glad we could shoot a little bit earlier then for you instead of later, because that should give you some more time today rather than having to
That's all
interrupt.
good.
And we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. You and King are moving at the same time. It would appear King is also moving today.
Damn.
Where you said you're moving into town? Do you live out in the country right now?
No, I live in a suburb outside Montreal, but I'm like off the island, so to speak. So I'm moving onto the island, I guess.
Is
I mean, if you
Montreal
want
on
to
an
pull up like
island?
a map of that, yeah, Montreal is an island in the Fleuve Saint Laurent. The how would you even say that in English?
Do you speak
Yeah,
French?
yeah. I'm fluent in French. The Saint Lawrence River. It's in the Saint Lawrence River, which goes like to the Great Lakes. And Montreal's a big island. It doesn't like really look like it because kind of the streams on the sides of it are small in some parts, but yeah, you have to get on a bridge to get to Montreal.
Whoa. Whoa. That's cool.
In my opinion, probably the coolest island on the planet. I don't know. It's pretty all right
Well,
over here.
the Filipinos would like something to say to you, and
Yeah.
the
The
Japanese, I
archipelagos are all
think
right. Those are cool. They've got some cool animals over there or something. Something like that.
they do have a lot of cool animals. Well,
They got a couple turtles.
what's pulling you into the city? What are you just done not having to commute into the city, ready to be in the midst of it?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of been sitting at home rotten, living with my parents, looking for videography and photography opportunities, which have been rather scarce. So I mean, I put together that video for Frag, the documentary. I put together the little Frag 19 trailer and stuff like that. I've done little commissions here and there, but um, it was really hard looking for. I mean, ideally, what I want doing videography and photography would be to work with like a marketing agency or something, so that I'm not looking for clients myself, because freelancing is really tough, to be honest, and it's really stressful. Like you kind of don't really get a day off when you're running your own business like that. Um, because if you're not working, you're looking for your work, right? So, but I think those opportunities are pretty scarce and they require a lot of experience, which is tough to get when I'm not around everything, to be honest. I have a feeling that being in town, I'll be able to do little commissions on the weekends and stuff, maybe like looking for events near me, taking some photos for businesses, even just like walking into little like local businesses to see if they need stuff done, and pitching myself, right? Doing some independent work. And then if I have enough really good stuff on my portfolio, um, I think maybe I could pitch myself to like a studio type of thing. That would be the ideal thing. But I think being in town, I mean, I'm excited to have more independence in my life. I'm working a full-time job now. I'm gonna be moving in with my brother. I'm gonna be around more friends and stuff downtown. So, um, yeah, I think it's just a development for the way that my life is going in a positive direction. I think it's all just good.
Dude, yeah, no. Is this your first time getting to live on your own too?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, baby, it's gonna be so exciting, dude. You get to stay up. I mean, I'm sure you stay up as late as you want. You get to eat whatever you want, whenever you want. No more mom
yeah.
and dad telling you what to do. I don't
I
think your
mean,
mom and dad tell you much
being a
what to do
gamer,
right
you
now.
fucking you stay up. Like you already know that. But
Right.
I mean, starting a job, like I've never had a problem. If there's like something to get up for, I can get up. I've been going to bed at like 10 p.m. and shit to make sure that I can get up at 6 a.m. to take the bus and shit to get into town. But once I'm in town, I'm gonna be like a 10-minute walk from my work, thankfully. So That'll be really nice. It's gonna shave off like a full hour commute basically on
Mm,
both ends of the
mm.
day. So that'll give me some more time. And I'm hoping that'll help me fit in a little bit of Counter-Strike to my routine. Because I haven't been playing for a while, to be honest. I mean, I played a few seasons of League with my buddies. Peaker's Advantage, if some people probably know that I've played on that team for a while. And it's been tough to justify, like, when I play Counter-Strike, I want to be playing it all the time. It's not satisfying to play a season of League if I'm not scrimming like 4 days a week or something like that. Because then I'm just going to be playing games where I'm not at my peak form and being dissatisfied with it, right? Um, and I get, I'm a very competitive person, so I get tilted at that kind of stuff pretty quickly, which
As
is,
we all do.
yeah, that nature I think is pretty common in people that, you know, play enough games like that to get to a certain level. So, I think it's been tough to play, but I've started to coach, which isn't nearly as time consuming, and it's not. It's a little more independent because I can kind of be there for scrims, but I don't have to be there for all of them, and I can, as long as I have enough time to talk to people in my team and shit like that, and go over stuff, I can be productive, and I can watch demos on my own time and stuff like that. That's very independent work. So. It's been a lot of fun and it's been really rewarding and it hasn't required me to be totally, like in peak form. So that's been nice.
I like that. Yeah, I've been thinking about getting into coaching just as I start to get busier outside of the game and not wanting to. I also am just getting to an age where I don't want to be like spending like because if I have free time, I'm playing Counter Strike, and I still have a decent amount of free time right now, and I kind of would like to start continuing to turn that free time into something more productive within the Counter Strike space rather than just pugging and screaming at randoms on the internet, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, coaching seems like it's a lot less time consuming, but you're still like scratching an itch that Counter Strike gives you, where you're, engaging with the tactical side of it and like challenging your brain to think. But I do want to let's go back in time here for a minute, Tawa. Here's the thing: you are the second guest to be on Laying It Down twice. If you remember, you were on the
I
beanbag
do remember.
chair back, and I gave Avery another episode, and now we finally got you out here as well for a full in-depth look at Alexander Tawa's life. Uh, but I don't remember if we talked about it then, but what's your earliest memory of Counter-Strike, and like are there other competitive games that you're into that like brought you to Counter-Strike, or was it just Counter-Strike from the get-go?
I think what got me into competition in general in my life was Counter-Strike. Uh, but a lot of things led me there. So um, I was a drummer in high school, and I started that
Nice.
in elementary school actually in music class, and that was like not really competitive, but it was something that I could grind, and I was going in, after school. I would do my rehearsals for all sorts of like I was in talent shows. I was in like maybe 3 or 4 bands per show. Like I would do the orchestra band with the class. I was in the jazz band, the honor band, fucking, band with my friends and shit like that. And I was playing drums so much that I had like carpal tunnel really bad. Like I couldn't form a fist and I was just like burning all day, like just in pain, waiting to get back into the music room, of course, and play more drums and fuck up my arms. But um I guess I've always been like into a grind. Like if there's something I'm gonna do, I want something to work on always outside of when I'm doing like whatever productive stuff. Like whether it's school, whether it's work, I want to be able to get home and have a goal, right? Um and it's not like I consciously set that, I guess. I just like have always done things that I really like over and over and kind of not really made compromises, which at times has given me trouble, right? Like everybody knows about, whatever, like skipping work and not doing your schoolwork and shit like that to play Counter-Strike, people dropping out of college playing too much League of Legends. You hear that all the time. But yeah, I mean, I've never made compromises for the things I enjoy doing. But another thing I always did, of course, was play video games. And I played a lot of shooters. I remember it has to have been COD 4 or Modern Warfare 2, but back in the day when I was like, yeah, like 7 or 8 or 9 or something. And I went to one of my brother's buddies' places with my mom to like pick him up from whatever, being over with his friends. And they had this tiny little CRT in my brother's buddy's room. and they were playing 4-player split screen COD on like they each must have had like 6 or 7 inches of screen space on this tiny little thing. Um, and that's like one of my earliest memories of discovering what an FPS game even was. And so a few years later, my brother got a copy of Black Ops 1, and um, I was the one who played it most, to be honest, on our PS3. And so from there, I played a bunch of Battlefield in high school, but I really got into shooters, and I've always been into like military history and shit. It's like standard nerdy high school shit. But um, from there, I remember I saw on the PlayStation Store that Counter-Strike Global Offensive was coming out, and I'd always heard about Counter-Strike, but I'm really glad that I didn't buy it back then because, of course, that was a kind of piece of crap version of CS.
That never got
But
updated
when
either.
yeah, of course, exactly, right? So if I bought that, I might have not had a good experience with Counter-Strike and played it again.
Right.
But when I started playing like Minecraft and stuff, when I was like, 12 or 13, and I got my first laptop at the beginning of high school, I at some point, well, I bought CS in 2014, and at some point I must have just seen it on the store, and I remembered like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that on the PlayStation Store, and I thought that was interesting. Let me just try it out, and of course, I guess the rest is history, so to speak.
It really is, isn't it? Dude, I'm glad you didn't try it on the console because that actually begs the question, how many people were turned off from
Yeah.
Counter-Strike because they played it on console and were like, this is what everybody is crazy about? This game is shit.
Plus, I can't imagine spraying on a controller.
Oh
There's no
my
shot.
God. How? How would you even do it? Would you pull down on the joystick? What? Dude,
I mean, yeah, you would have to get your pattern down with your thumb. That'd be outrageous.
I'm imagining somebody just holding right trigger and then wiggling their right thumbstick around in a
Yeah,
really
I mean,
precise
I
way.
guess honestly, it might not be that bad, but like, yeah, you would have to like
Y-
get your directions down.
yeah, I don't think it's yeah. And then it never got updated, like we said too, because you got. I remember it was like 6 years late after CS:GO came out. I went back and like played it on on an Xbox 360 that it was installed on, and
Yeah.
it was like all the old sounds, nothing updated. It was like
Oh yeah.
it was a
It's kind of nostalgic, actually.
it was a little nostalgic, but it was jarring too. It was like, oh, all these old sounds that everybody's crazy about, these do not actually sound any good at all. Like, I don't know. I
Oh
remember.
yeah, I remember when they made the sound changes that like it was a huge circle jerk on Reddit type of thing that it was like so bad because Counter-Strike players hate change.
Right.
And what pissed me off so much was there was this Hiko clip where he like shoots a 5.7 and he shoots a bunch of guns and he's like, they all sound the same and they sound like paintball guns. And it's like just the most reactionary, like instant stupid bullshit that was coming out of his mouth. But of course, because it was Hiko, like everybody wanted to listen to him and it was like the biggest thing on Reddit. But it was like, no, people were posting recordings of guns that sounded so much like the new sounds. And of course, it just took like 2 weeks and everybody knew what all the sounds were. And now there's absolutely, you know what a fucking P250 sounds like versus a 5.7 across the map type of thing. Like you know
Yeah.
exactly what's going on.
I'm a big fan of this. I remember when they were changing
It
them. I
was
was like,
just an objectively good change.
yeah, it was an objectively good change, and I was like, okay, whatever about it. And then the op sound came through, and that thing had like a massive like boom to it, and I
The
was
whole
like,
echo
oh
and
yeah,
shit.
no, I'm into this. This is
Yeah.
fantastic. That actually begs the question. This is a question I've never asked anybody. Uh, you've played since 2014. What's the biggest update over the last 10 years? And not you can't use Counter Strike Go to Counter Strike 2, but what's the biggest update that
That's one of
sticks
them.
out in your memory over the last
Shit.
10 years? Besides the sound stuff too, I guess.
That's a really good question, actually.
We'll walk down memory
Everybody
lane.
remembers the R8.
Yes, the Wild West day.
I I maybe this was an experience that I shouldn't have chosen to miss out on, but I just didn't choose to play matchmaking for those 2 days because I didn't want to like get owned. Um, but that was probably like a core experience I missed out on playing the R8 madness. I remember back in the day there was like the whole animation overhaul, where there was all sorts of glitches where if you were defusing a bomb, your hitbox wouldn't be aligned with your model. and there were all sorts of animations like that where if you were like, you could crouch too much. Um,
Yeah, you could spam
and
crouch in the past.
yeah, you could do like the spam crouch shit, and if you uncrouched, you also weren't in sync with your model. So like you could see over an edge, but your model wouldn't have been up yet. So you could just be like mega head glitching people like that. And then there was also, the big clan Inferno jump. All of that stuff getting fixed, I thought was really interesting. It was like, I think Counter-Strike is interesting because it's so old and it's been so refined that those are the types of small changes that you wouldn't expect to be super huge in other games. Where like, yeah, we made the animations more in sync, but that was like super crucial for the game working properly. And when it's so competitive and there's like such bleh, razor thin margins when it comes to gunfights and shit like that. So those little details are really important, and I think those stood out to me. I was like thinking about that recently. Like, yeah, I remember that they put out a whole diagram. I think it was when like the new train came out that they did the animation overhaul, and I was really sick.
Not the newest new train, but the new train
Yeah,
from like
the
eight
old new
years
train.
ago or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's such an old game, and it really hasn't. It like the core of it hasn't changed in 25 years. It is still that like
yeah.
Dust 2 is still Dust 2, and it is still the exact same game. But
And the way you shoot's still just gonna be strafing around a corner, hitting a counter strafe, trying to hit a headshot. Same shit.
yeah, it's still the same game. But what is it about Counter Strike that keeps you coming back over and over?
I think it's just so raw like that. I also played a lot of COD, and I've played a lot of COD until recently, and they changed the way the damage model works, and I can't stand it, and we can talk about that. But um, there's some games where the ones that keep me coming back are just like really good at a base mechanical level. I've actually been playing a ton of War Thunder too, flying around planes, and that game is so fun because it's not like I'm coming back because there's like a weekly event or, you know, there's a new update. Like I'm playing that game because it feels so good that like you just gotta. I don't know, like sprinting around a corner in COD and gunning three guys down to take a hard point. There's nothing else that feels like that. Strafing around a corner in CS and shooting a guy in the head first bullet when he's posted on you with an AWP. There's no game that feels like that and properly gets that down. Winning a clutch. Like, it's like the actual gameplay experience that's so good about, I think like competitive games like that. Like, there's stuff like Melee. There's stuff like, um, I guess MOBAs are kind of like that, but there's so many different champs that I don't like that. Same with hero shooters, I don't like them very much because there's too much variation. What I like about Counter-Strike and COD, I think, in terms of shooters, is that like everybody's a guy with a gun and a couple nades, and it's just down to how you manipulate the game that sets you apart from everybody around you, right? Um, that process is addictive, and it's easy to get hooked on improving yourself when it's so like it's not like you just were able to hit a button and you killed a guy, right? Like you figured out how to outsmart somebody, whatever, like watching videos, watching a demo, just practicing, maybe you just got better aim and so you got out of silver, right? Like that process is really rewarding because it's all you because everybody's the same.
Would you say so? You're a drummer, and this is something and like somebody who like grinded out learning how to play drums. This is something I've thought about a lot as I've played Counter Strike for the last 10 years really seriously, and then I've picked up the bass in the last five. Would you
That's
say that
cool.
like learning these types of games, like especially Counter Strike or MOBAs or these like really high learning curve esports, do you see similarities in like learning those games as to learning an instrument?
100%. I think I recommend it to a lot of people. Like you just have to have something that you're working on in your life, to be honest. Like you have to have one of those goals where you get home and you're not just like bumming around, I don't know, like watching a TV show all the time. Like you should have something, it's really fulfilling to have something that you can see yourself improve at and has a lot of room to improve at. And so I think playing an instrument is like a less competitive way to do that, where it's kind of against yourself in a way. Like you just want to see yourself improve and be able to play better music and stuff like that. When it comes to competitive games, obviously the rush is also that you get to actively beat somebody. But I think at its core, yeah, like learning the drums, you had to learn the basics of just being able to shoot and counter strafe properly in Counter Strike that better players like take for granted is the same with drums, where you have to be able to be uncoordinated in a coordinated way. Like you have to be able to play with different hands at different rhythms, which is tough for people if you haven't tried it before,
It's really
because
hard.
you're naturally inclined to tap your foot at the same rhythm that you're going to be hitting a hi-hat or something. But that's not going to work if that's, the pattern of the bass drum is not going to be the same as the hi-hat usually, I would say.
Not in a
Um,
good song.
you know, you have to be able to play off rhythms and stuff like that. So like those core fundamentals are what make you like a player in the first place, whether it's like, an instrument player or a game player. And then, it's just down to, are you able to improve enough at it, and kind of put those techniques together in ways that, yeah, make you good, I guess. But it's very similar. I mean, like, what about playing the bass? Like, you have to learn how to position your finger. You have to like literally be quick. You have to be quick as fuck to be able to get the fingerings right.
Yeah, that's
If you
why I
can't
don't
do
play
that in
fast
the first
songs.
place, yeah, exactly. If you can't do that in the first place, there's going to be some songs you can't play.
Right.
So you have to be able to do those like fundamental core techniques to be able to do it in the first place. And that's, I think, really similar to playing any sport or game. You have to be able to throw a layup to play basketball, right? Like,
I guess yeah, it is. And yeah, even more so, like the term esports definitely is more and more applicable to these games as the years go on because they are a lot. I mean, just like as much practice as you have to put into learning an instrument, you want to get good at sports. It's going to be a slow, incremental process over years of practice. And yeah, you're getting that feedback from the competition when you go and compete in that sport. But uh, yeah, it feels like it's a lifetime journey. Like you said, it's nice to do something and have a goal to set for yourself where you can see market improvement as you continue on, but there's kind of always this infinite ceiling to try to achieve, right?
yeah,
Um,
it can be intimidating too when you realize how high the ceiling is.
yeah, that's why I don't come into these video games thinking that you're gonna just be the master at them the first moment you pick it up. I mean, it's taken me nearly 14,000 hours to get to a point where I'm like, no, I am confident that I know what I'm doing in this game. Like,
Yeah.
it shouldn't take anybody else that long, by the way. That's an obsessively long time, but
Hey,
or
take it at your own pace.
but take it at your own pace, exactly. Well, and let's shift the focus here to
Real quick, actually,
yeah, lay it on
really
me.
quick. Keep your thought in mind. You can like write it down or whatever. But yeah, I'll let you do that. But I think that it's like important for you to be able to set your own standard in a way and be proud of what you've done still. Like I know a lot of players, what pisses me off is like they'll go, advanced or bust this season. Like I don't know, like what are you playing for at that point? Are you not playing the game because you enjoy it? I don't know, like people will make whatever league and they go, but I'm shit and everybody I play against is shit. But even if you're like a good open player, you're better than 99% of people that'll ever touch Counter-Strike, right? So I've always like that's always been really important to me. Like doesn't matter how many fucking hours I have. I've always played for myself and to be the best type of player that I could be, but it's also been really important for me to like say like, yeah, I think I'm a good Counter-Strike player. Like I have enough. Even if you get to like level 9 on Face It, you're probably a top 1% player type of thing. I think being able to acknowledge that is important. There was a thread on Twitter I would have to find. There's no way I could find it, but um, somebody was talking about like, yeah, I'm 2400 elo and I'm not even a good Counter Strike player. And then a guy just posted a graph like, dude, be real for a sec. Like, come on, like,
Yeah,
I think people get too in their own head about the whole scale of it. Obviously, there's levels to things, but like, give yourself some credit. I think that's important to having some confidence.
seriously, that's something that I've like that's something that I've had to kind of struggle with is I finally crossed 2K elo this year and have been starting to play in some of these like 23, 24, 2500 average lobbies where like even 3K or 4K elo players get pulled into them, right? And 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 now I'm looking at these numbers and I have it in my head I'm some silver elite and then I play like that in the game because I'm getting into my own head, right? Where it's like yeah, there's a sliding scale of these guys are probably better than me on a more consistent level, but like it's a psychological game. Don't psych yourself out. You will continue to improve, and especially like have some good perspective about it. Like it, it's not worth it to always be putting yourself down and just telling yourself you're the most garbage player ever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
A lot of people like to say, they beat somebody, they go, that guy's dog shit. But I like to say I'm better. You know, I
Yeah,
think that's a
yeah,
better way to go about
exactly.
it.
Why does he have to be bad and not you are great? Dude,
Yeah.
that is very well said. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Well, okay, I am gonna. We're not switching subjects. It's still Counter Strike. It's all Counter Strike all the time around here. Uh, but let's talk about a little NACS because I want to. You prob. I don't know how much you follow Counter Strike outside of when you're playing it. Um, but NACS is obviously not on the level with the rest of the world, and I don't think that it's a simple solution. But I like to get everybody's thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on NACS and what could it be doing to get itself higher on the world stage or raise its floor up?
I think people overhype the problem a lot, but I have my own opinions as well. I think, to be honest, like people like to talk about ego, people like to talk about whatever the fuck, like, they'll people do whatever too much. But sorry, excuse me. I
Bless
think
you.
the biggest, thank you. I think the biggest problem to me, and it's been really obvious, is like when COVID hit and Valorant hit, we lost all our players. It's really that simple to me. I think in other scenes, like the Danish scene, which has always been strong, always had a big pipeline of, you would play under Hunden and then you would play under Glaive and then you would play under Kerrigan type of thing, as you climbed your way up. And I think that in NA, we lost our pipeline. A lot of the people that are in high spots right now were, just like main players and IM players at some point that kind of like climbed up themselves and didn't have a lot of experience coming back down to teach them things. And I think, to be honest, in main and in a lot of advanced teams, there's a stylistic problem that comes from the fact that people haven't played with really experienced players. I was lucky enough to. I'm very confident in my understanding of Counter Strike, to be completely honest, and I talk a lot of shit. But I have played with Davey for the past few years, 5 years or something like that. And despite being one of the most carried players on ESEA, the perk of that is playing with somebody who's really, really experienced. And so when he came into my team in season 38 to play season of main after playing on Mythic, he didn't want to just come into the team and tell us a bunch of strats to throw and, you know, just have us run around and not learn shit because the only thing we were going to learn is that we should have run the strat better. He wasn't just going to come in with a bunch of strats that he knew because he was a pro, that he could tell us what to do every round. What he wanted us to do was, well, what happened was we would get into scrims and what he would say was vibe. We would ask him what the plan was and he would just laugh, right? And so what that meant was we would go into rounds and we would like just look for hints and stuff and communicate with each other and try to find opportunities and then limit test, right? And we would try to be aggressive and we would be overly aggressive to try and find the line. And being able to poke like that and play a loose game like that is something that I think a lot of teams aren't able to do because they play this really textbook style that I think is extremely misguided and it's all over the place. I see it everywhere where people kind of just think that as long as you play enough scrims, you can play perfect Counter Strike, and as long as you're not making mistakes, if you get into good positions, you just won't lose them, and that's how you win games. Like if you get into this is my pet peeve, is like people will get into a 5-on-4, and then you do the rule of like, oh, we're in a man advantage, we shouldn't do anything aggressive now, and we definitely shouldn't make any solo plays. But that's like totally situationally dependent. But you'll see this in people's demos where there are like obvious holes. There's information that they could be finding if they were paying attention to it individually, communicating it to their team, and then making reads. But they don't do it, and it actively loses them rounds and shit like that. So I think that there's a big problem with the fact that vetted talent never trickled down. Even if it's just like playing with some of their friends, and then their friends could go on other teams and like teach other people. We have no pipeline because we lost all of our legacy pros. And so I think I got a pretty unique experience in NACS in comparison because I was able to play with somebody who's really, really vetted. And I think that helped me a lot in being able to understand what I understand. And even though I think like I've never even though I just talked about how you have to be like you have to give yourself a certain amount of credit. Never considered myself a particularly good player, especially like at least for my level. I've never been when I was in IM, I wasn't a particularly good IM player. When I was in main, I wasn't a particularly good main player. When I was in advanced, I got fucking slammed. um, but I think I understand the game better than I can execute it, and that comes with good coaching.
I think that's really well said. I appreciate you saying that because that's not really something that's been talked about before. Is like the feel versus the like by the books aspect of like that can be talked about in anything that you do in life, right? But like
Yeah,
I think that's really well verbalized, the fact that you really have to feel out more of these rounds rather than always like if you somebody else said this the other day. They said not it wasn't on laying it down, but they told me, they said if everybody is playing the same meta, like if you're just following a meta, you're eventually going to run into other players that do the same thing but better, right? So you have to
yeah.
be able to find your own flair and flow and like feel for the game. So yeah, I think that's fucking brilliant.
It's like when you're scared too. Like a lot of teams, when you're playing against a team that you know is better than you might as well play wackier. You shouldn't play your own game. You shouldn't play what you know. Like that's when you should limit test and you should do crazy shit and you should make more solo plays and you should ask for flashes through smokes and you should try to find timings. Because if you feel like you're gonna lose a game anyway, why not like lose it on your own terms? If you're gonna lose it anyway, why not do something a little dumber that like could work better because it could catch somebody off guard? You know what I'm saying? And I think that applies in general. Like you have to be able to take a certain amount of risk to find information. Um, and I think teams like go into too many rounds with a really set game plan. They're not really paying attention to what's going on individually and as a team. And then if the plan doesn't work, that means they're not able to adapt. They're not able to mid round and they're not able to adapt their calling throughout a half. And so you see these really stiff, is the word I like to use. We see these really stagnant looking teams that kind of don't manipulate the map at all. And I think it's really prevalent right now in North America. I think that also might have to do with the fact that like NA was always known as like the stupid region and like the peanut brain Tarek region. And people like maybe went too hard the other way where it's like, oh, we have to play like Danish CS now and we have to like know all our nades all the time and everybody watch your Nar out here video and know
Yeah.
all your nades. And as long as we are always together and we always throw our nades, it'll be fine. But what actually ends up happening is everything you do is telegraphed. And it's super easy to read teams like that because if every time you flash, there's going to be two guys there because you're trying to trade each other.
The
That's a
opponent's
lot
gonna
of
play around it.
information.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information that you can adapt to. Um, so that just like that, there's a hint, right? So I think teams are way too textbook, and I think it comes down to not having good experience because they don't like understand um, even when they're doing something properly. Like what was really useful about playing with an ex-professional player actually that wasn't it was like counterintuitive at first because you would think that somebody coming into your team with a lot of experience would be able to tell you what you're doing wrong every round and what you could fix. But actually, he was able to tell us when we did something right and got unlucky. And he could explain it to us and justify it to us, right? So if I made a solo play somewhere and I just died, and we could even lose the round because of it, he would be able to tell us like, no, that was a valid 1v1. You thought you had a timing, you took it, it didn't work out. That's okay, right? And so that gives you the confidence to be able to do something and try things out and limit test properly. Versus I've played on a lot of teams and seen a lot of teams where that doesn't happen because the moment somebody dies, nobody on the team knows what's going on. So what ends up being learned is I shouldn't have died. And
Right.
so nobody wants to do anything on the map. That's why those teams are so slow. And you'll just see teams throw executes over and over because they just think you have to be gathered, you have to trade, you have to, again, it's just like textbook shit that doesn't always work in practice and is easy to counter if you start figuring it out.
Yeah. We need more vibes and less stiff. I saw the Twitter post.
Yeah,
You
I was 100% serious.
Well, no, I thought it was brilliant when you posted it. I was like, exactly. Are we vibes or are we stiff? You can because that's like there's that intangible feeling when you're playing in the group setting, and it happens more in the five stack, right? Like if it's in solo queue or like you have randoms, you can kind of just lock in on what you're doing. But when you're in that five stack and you don't know where the blame goes. There's just that underlying feeling of either things feel
Yeah,
really
you go
good.
back. Oh, who died? Yeah, we lost this round. That's funny. Why did you die solo there? But then, like, if you're paying attention to the map, it might have been a really valid play, and a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and let me ask you this. I only have a couple more questions for you. I don't want to keep you too long here today since you have got big fish to fry with a big move today. Um, you said you started coaching recently. What is good coach? What is a coach in Counter-Strike to you? Because I know that there's not really one definition of it within our scene, but what is it to you?
That's a tough question to answer because, to be honest, I don't have a ton of experience coaching. I coached an impact team at the end of CS:GO for a little, and honestly, I think I was really bad at it. Um, I don't think I understood enough about the game to be qualified as a coach at the time, and I wasn't. Um, I don't think my advice was particularly good, and I don't think I understand how to give it even. But I think I've developed playing with really experienced players and then playing without them, seeing the difference, analyzing it, and trying to figure out why. Like, uh, playing with my buddies and then playing without them and stuff has helped me like get a better perspective of things. And I think I have my best understanding now that I've ever had. So, me as a coach, I think I want to inform the style of the team, and what I like to do is try to help teams do what I was just saying, where they give their players freedom, they let their players look for information, and then they consolidate the information to try and make reads. And that's, in my opinion, how you play Counter Strike, because otherwise you're just playing Strike if you're not looking for information and actually countering anything. It's an IGL once told me that when I was playing in Open. We're playing Counter Strike, we're not playing Strike. um, but I think a coach can be a lot of things in general. Like, a coach could be the type of guy that brings you coffee and makes sure that everything's good and hypes you up between rounds. Or a coach could completely inform the style of your team and know more than everybody on the team because he's super vetted, right? So, I mean, me personally, I like to coach teams that aren't as experienced because I think I have a good fundamental understanding of how to play a loose game and be able to learn Counter-Strike properly by putting yourself in situations and playing loose and, experimenting like that, so that you can find your style and find the ways that you like playing, and then be able to consolidate that with your team and figure that out together. But that's just me. I think there's lots of different styles to it. But honestly, that's a tough question because I don't really know. I don't have a ton of experience.
Well,
Um, yeah,
I was gonna say we can have you back on a year from now and see what your updated answer to that question is
I'll probably be around.
when you have some more experience. Um, okay, well, I've got three last questions here for you, and one of them is going to be a pretty easy answer, but we got a major starting here next week. This episode will be airing, I think, one day before the major starts tomorrow.
Am I bringing up the pick'ems? Is that what I'm doing here?
Yeah, what's you can talk about the pick'ems. Who do you like for this whole thing? How does the turn? Let's actually just kind of talk about VRS tell me your thoughts on VRS and then uh share your thoughts on this major kind of one general last big open-ended question.
I think it's interesting. It's definitely like there are some problems with it, but it's pretty cool that the VRS system has made local lands more relevant. Like Frag, for instance, has become way more relevant because if it's just prize pool, then yeah, go to your local fucking lands. Go to every event that you can go to. Just like play shit to get points. I think that's been really good and likely is very healthy for the scene. Um, but I think that it also, like I was talking with Davey about this actually, and he pointed this out to me, and it was something I hadn't thought about before. Something like a frag, which is just a weekend event, is worth more than um, like ECL, for instance, where a frag can just be an open event and you have no idea who's going to go, but because you win that money, it's worth more than playing months and months against like, good teams qualified at your level, probably salaried and shit like that on contracts. So there's a bit of an imbalance there. Like that system didn't take leagues into account, but I think it's cool that it's emphasized the importance of tournaments. And I mean, otherwise, I don't know. I don't pay a huge amount of attention to the pro scene, to be completely honest. Um, I've always found like watching ESEA games to be more interesting because there's more for me to pick out. Like I understand the flaws better. Like I don't think I have a good enough understanding to really analyze Pro CS. And so I have a tough time like it's like when I watch sports, I'll watch sports with friends and they're all pointing out like, oh, this guy fucked this up, whatever. But I don't know enough about any sport to be able to like trust myself that I'm seeing a mistake in front of me. You know what I'm saying? That's what
Right.
makes it kind of interesting for me when I can see like, oh, this was really cool. This was really bad. They could have improved this. When I'm watching an ESEA game, that's obvious to me. When I'm watching a game of Pro CS, that's less obvious to me and there's kind of less to parse. So what I've found interesting recently, I guess, about Pro CS is Vitality's on a really interesting run, and Zaiwu is like maybe cementing himself as like the greatest Counter Strike player of all time ever. And I think those narratives are more fun to me when it comes to Pro CS. So when there's interesting things going on, that's when I tune in, and I've been watching all the Vitality games because I want to see who the fuck's gonna beat these guys. Like, is anybody gonna be able to beat these guys? It doesn't look like it right now. But I mean, when it comes to the major, I think they're going to win it. I think it'll be very interesting if they win it. It's going to spawn all sorts of, discussions. That'll be fun. It'll be really cool if they get through it flawless. It'll be really cool if they keep edging closer to that NIP record, which seems like it's probably impossible, but who knows? You could witness history if you stay tuned. Um, yeah, I guess that's about it. I'm really interested in Vitality right now.
I like your words there, Tawa. I've been following this fight. Cloud9 dissipated as a North American roster after they won the major, and Vitality came around like pretty shortly after, and that's who I started. Like I was really excited about that project, and just seeing Zaiwu at the young stage, and it was like RPK, NBK, Apex, all those guys, and I loved the project, and then to see it I've been a fan of them, and to see them 5 years later now be like cemented as the first dynasty in Counter-Strike 2 is quite thrilling. My cat finally has made an appearance here. He's been in the camera
Yeah.
and shot
Does,
nonstop.
does your cat have any questions for me?
Yeah, Momo, do you have any questions for Tawa here? He's he's mainly just flustered that I'm not paying attention to him right now. Um,
Likely true. Likely true.
Well, yeah, I'm with you on vitality is what I'm trying to say. All right, I do have. Let's ask this question. That's the nice simple question. Then I've got one last question for you. I've recently been asking people where do their online names come from, uh, but you go by Tawa, and Tawa is
Sorry.
your last name. Why don't you tell us a little story about where the name Tawa comes from?
I was at uh I was at a party in college with a bunch of friends and friends of friends, and we were drinking a bunch, and I was doing shots with this guy. And I don't want to actually say his last name, but let's say it was just like William or something like generic like that. And he was like, dude, like you're such a fucking legend, bro. Your name is Tawa. That's crazy. My name's fucking William, dude. And I was like, you know what? You're totally right. Like you're 100% correct. I have a dope ass name, so that it's been my alias ever since. It's about it. But I think that's a funny story.
Yeah, dude. And where does Tawa originate from, like heritage wise? Is that French?
Honestly, I don't exactly know uh how far it goes back, but my grandfather grew up in Egypt and he's Lebanese.
Oh.
And his last name's Tawa. And then he went to I'm a whole mixed bag. He went to Brazil and met my grandmother, and then they came to Canada. And the reason I have red hair is because my mom had her ancestors immigrate from Scotland and England. So I have that mix on the other side. But I'm a Brazilian, Lebanese, Scot, Englishman.
Wow.
Um, so I'm a redhead with the last name Tawa.
And Canadian.
And yeah,
Dude, that's sick. That is legendary. All right, you ready for this last question here, and then we'll release you into the wild to move and
Run it.
get out of here. Okay, well, this podcast, this episode has been full of wonderful advice, but this is the last question I always ask everybody. If you can give yourself, like a younger version of yourself, like a little kid version, some life advice, or speak to the younger generation out there, either Counter-Strike, esports, videography, life, whatever you want, get on a soapbox and preach. What's some advice you would give yourself or the next generation?
And that's a
Yes.
good question.
I like the long pensive stare out the window.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta, you know, sometimes you just gotta soak it all in. That's a good question. I think I'm a very anxious person. I've like struggled with anxiety my whole life, and that's never going to stop. But
No, it is
the
not.
more I've put myself out there, and the more I've done, stupid shit like this, like getting on a video call to talk about whatever, taking pictures of myself, like I made like a calendar of myself, doing like just being bold and letting yourself be scared and make mistakes and look a little stupid, kind of um, can desensitize you to being scared of things like that. Um, and the more you do that, the more you can allow yourself to have more life experiences and get even more used to it. So, I think playing Counter Strike allowed me to have a place where I was comfortable and allowed me to have a place where I could experiment like socially and stuff like that. Um, and through there, I've met a lot of friends that I could, go hang out with and see in different cities, in different countries and stuff like that. And I think now I've set myself up for, um, I think I'm the most confident I've ever been in my life, and I'm of course, making some money moves. Got a job. I'm feeling really comfortable with my coworkers and stuff, being social with them, even like using my second language, French, which I haven't been very confident in for a lot of my life. Getting out of the house. I'm looking forward to seeing more people, and I think that just comes from letting myself make mistakes and stuff like that, and make a fool of myself a little bit. So just don't be afraid to do some stupid shit every once in a while, I guess. Fuck around.
Fuck around and find out, dude.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah, if you fuck around, the worst that can happen is you find out.
I like that. I love it. All right, dude. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show. Why don't you go ahead and, as one last little goodbye, give us some plugs here. Where do we find Tawa? How do we look
Appreciate
you
you for
up?
having me. I mean, I guess my Twitter is TawaALX. It's funny, my at is horrible, but I used to alias as ALX because I would watch all sorts of Brazilian teams, and a lot of them would like their names would be like three letters without vowels and stuff. So I just took like Alex and took the E out, and then so I comboed that with my last name when I switched my alias up. But now I have like too many people have added me on shit that I don't want to change my at on Twitter. But so like Tawa ALX I think is my Twitter at, and my Twitch. I stream Counter Strike and War Thunder every once in a while. I try to tweet intrusive thoughts that come into my head every once in a while. I put out, I think, very good Counter Strike edits on my YouTube channel every once in a while, which might also be Tawa ALX, actually, the like channel link, youtube.com/Tawa ALX. That's about it. I'm not really on much of a grind when it comes to the online stuff. If you want to be there, you can be there. I think I put out good shit. But otherwise, it's all good. I'm around.
Well, we'll link it in the bio as well for the Twitter. So, all right, Tawa, thank you very much, and thank you all for watching. That is